So, 2015. Pretty standard year, really. And think about it. It seems like the big controversies are the same every year, except with a different publisher, person, or game in the spotlight. But nevertheless, I still feel I need to rant at least a little bit to start this video. So, big bad evil publishers want your money. Why are people still surprised by this? Their business is set up in order to make a profit, and if they feel they're not making enough, then they're going to release more goods and services for you to purchase. But guess what? You don't need to buy them. Just pay for what you want to pay for and try to enjoy it, instead of obsessing over every little misstep a publisher or developer makes, whether it's microtransactions, DLC, or whatever the fuck's pissing off the internet today. Enjoying games really shouldn't be this difficult, should it? Well, let's face it, some people are just never happy unless they're fucking miserable. What else happened? Oh yeah, VR is kind of almost here, at least until it's all inevitably delayed. Surprising thing is, it doesn't actually look too shit. I'll admit it, I've been a VR skeptic, but now I'm somewhat intrigued. Maybe the idea of immersing myself in a game to the level VR allows you to appeals to the antisocial bastard in me. But, who knows. Worth keeping an eye on though. Obviously I need to mention Shenmue and its money-making shenanigans. Am I the only one who asked the fuck is Shenmue when it was announced? I feel like I was the only person in the world who'd never heard of it, as if it was some sort of global phenomenon that I wasn't in on. And again, that wouldn't be the first time that's happened. To be honest, I haven't really seen anything to get me excited about it, but still, good luck to the devs, because if they fuck up, well, people can get a little bit pissy when they feel they're not getting value for money, and there's a lot of fans' money involved here. Not quite Star Citizen money, but, you know, still a fair amount of cash. And then there was Konami. After many seemingly happy years together, and more recently months of denial on Konami's part, Konami and Hideo Kojima have divorced. But hey, it'll be like 2 Christmases, right? When your child will divorce. Double the games, right? Oh, yeah. Well, I guess there's always a winner and a loser in a divorce. Guess we'll see you every other weekend, Konami. Anyway, that's enough ranting. There's games I need to get through. It's kind of the main point of this video anyway. Last year I set out some rules for myself for what I could and couldn't pick. The only change I've made concerns episodic games since they're becoming an annoyingly common thing. And that rule is simply that, as far as I'm concerned, year of release for such a game is the year in which the majority of episodes are released. So if 2 came out in 2014 and 3 in 2015, then that means it's a 2015 game. Easy enough as long as you can do maths a 5-year-old could do. My apologies to any 4-year-olds or idiots watching. And without any more yammering on, I present to you my top 5 games of 2015. The Prison Escape is pretty much been done to death in movies and TVs and books. I'm pretty sure most of you could rhyme off half a dozen such shows or movies without much bother. But oddly, it's a largely untapped genre in gaming. I suppose it makes sense. Most games these days are big on a sense of freedom, creativity and choice. Not really things you would associate with prison unless you're some sort of mafioso. The game certainly seems like a simple concept at face value, but there's plenty of depth buried in this charming look at prison life. Despite being locked up in a confined space, the escapist still gives you that potential for creativity and choice while you earn your freedom. Whether you're trading with other inmates for materials and tools, doing odd jobs for other inmates, or quietly stealing everything under the sun so you can craft your way to freedom, the escapist gives you a surprising amount of options to work towards your ultimate goal of a well-executed escape. Considering this is a relatively small indie game, both the crafting and NPC interaction are surprisingly robust. Inmates will have an opinion on you which can help or hinder you in the long run. Trust me, there's nothing worse than being mid-escape and having wee Davy, who you beat up on day 2, come along and kick the shit out of you and blow the escape. Gift giving can help mend fences and gain allies to help you in your breakout plans. Guard opinion also dictates how much you can get away with. So behave or expect daily cavity searches. Well, not really, but piss them off and they'll be on your ass in a slightly more metaphorical way. Well, the crafting system isn't quite Minecraft, it's more than enough to get you through your time inside. Fancy digging your way out? Build a shovel. Want to dress up as a guard? Dye an inmate uniform blue. Still afraid of wee Davy? Tool up by combining a comb with a razor blade for a makeshift weapon. But, of course, this is prison. If you want to plan and prepare for your grand escape, you're going to have to work it around your prison's schedule. Roll calls, exercise periods, meal times, work details, and soapy shower time are just some of the activities you're going to have to take part in to keep the guards off your back. As you work your way through the different, more difficult prisons, the schedule's going to become more strict and filled up, giving you less time to prepare for your escape. I've not even mentioned the look of the game yet. I love the style of this game. There's something undeniably charming about the game's 8-bit art style, in a setting that most would consider cold and rather depressing. It's just so colourful and pretty. There's a distinct possibility this game flew under the radar for a lot of people, and I doubt it would appear on too many Game of the Year lists, but if you haven't already, I would absolutely suggest you give it a go. The sense of accomplishment when you finally escape after hours of planning and preparing is well worth the rather modest price point by today's standards.
Became embroiled in a nightmarish and savage attack. Among the handful of survivors was a police officer.
This demonstration used just 5 ounces of my latest toxin. Tomorrow, this will seem like child's play. Gotham, this is your only warning.
So this is the 4th entry in the Batman Arkham series, and with the exception of Origins, which, quite frankly, I'm still not sure why it didn't click with me. They've been great games across the board. The series is a perfect example of a well-managed game franchise. Instead of the yearly iteration where the developers are just going to throw every idea they can come up with at the game in the hope that something clicks, the Arkham series has seen incremental but meaningful changes that fit into the existing formula, but managed to improve each game and help deliver an improved overall experience each time. Major change this time around was probably the addition of the Batmobile, which, to my surprise, the response was rather lukewarm. I personally enjoyed having the option of travelling around a brilliantly realised version of Gotham City in a Batmobile. But, as with other entries in the series, one of the main strengths of Arkham Knight is its other traversal options, namely the gliding and grappling between rooftops, which remains among the best traversal systems in all games, in my opinion at least. There's something just deeply satisfying about flying over a Gotham in ruins as Batman. Combat system, which is also among the best in its field in my opinion, remains mostly untouched, but the small changes that have been made are welcome ones, such as the ability to attack grounded enemies without having to interrupt your combo, which, to be honest, had bugged me since the very first Arkham game. Once again, Rocksteady have made great use of the Batman license, making full use of the range of characters available to them, and again they've selected the perfect voice actors to bring them to life. In particular, John Noble as Scarecrow and Mark Hamill again as the Joker were particular highlights. And just quickly, Mark Hamill has managed to turn one of the most iconic comic, film and TV villains of all time into one of the greatest video game villains of all time. And his performance in Arkham Knight in particular, it was just phenomenal. It was phenomenal. It really was. But to be fair, he was certainly helped in this game by the way the Joker was incorporated into the story, which I personally feel was a stroke of genius. And finally, a quick note on the look of the game. As with every game in the series, it looks fantastic, and seems to find that sort of perfect balance between realism and an over-the-top, almost comic-like style. It's probably one of the better looking games of 2015, unless of course you're on PC, in which case it might not look like much at all. But that being said, assuming it does work for you, this game is definitely among the best of 2015.
What are you planning to do, son?
Something subtle.
Here we go!
Wish me luck.
Why? We never needed it before!
Hot damn!
When a game begins with you standing atop a plane mid-flight with infinite RPG ammo to fend off anti-air missiles and fighter jets, you're left with little doubt of what you're in for. And in that respect, Just Cause 3 duly delivers on the promise of its opening moments. From start to finish, it's explosive, over-the-top action. It's successful in this regard, partly due to the fact that at no point does it try to be anything that it's not. The developers clearly know what the player wants: to blow shit up in a massive island playground. In the background there's a civil war and a dictatorship to be overthrown, but really when you're busy flying a bombing run over a military base at 300 kilometers an hour and watching the trail of destruction you leave in your path, those things don't really matter. Avalanche Studios know you want to destroy things, and they've given you plenty of ways to go about it. Want to pull apart a base using only grappling hooks? Check. Blow the enemy away in a bomber jet? Check. Or how about destroying a bridge by taking out its supports using your infinite supply of remote explosives? Sure, why not? You're definitely not going to be short on ways to take apart this rather large island nation. Rico's grapple hook in particular can provide plenty of entertainment in your travels around Medici. I mean, it's always fun to hook people to buildings in order to launch them for miles or use enemy soldiers as makeshift wrecking balls. Obviously the main point of this game, as I assume you'll have gathered by now, is destruction. However, with your targets of destruction spread across a massive open world, getting around that world becomes very important, otherwise things could get very tedious very quickly. Thankfully, travelling around Medici is an absolute joy, mainly due to Rico's wingsuit, which lets you quickly fly around the islands like some sort of heavily armed flying squirrel. When you're done with the story, you should still have plenty of bases and towns to overthrow, as well as some surprisingly fun challenge missions to mess around with to continue your path of destruction. Also, it's worth mentioning it's got a relatively easy and fun achievement list if you're into that sort of thing, which I am, and it's probably the most fun 1000 gamer score I got in 2015. The developers have managed to put together one of the funnest games of the year in an age of games where some developers are more interested in creating some sort of grand artistic vision or receiving a critical pat on the back for conveying some subtle message. Avalanche has ignored such pointless aspirations and instead just made a game for gamers, where we can blow shit up to our heart's content.
Greetings.
Oh, here it is. The apocalypse. A witch has walked into my brothel.
What's strange about that?
What's strange is you. Everyone knows witches are freaks, mutants, unnatural. And this here's a decent brothel for whores with principles. Well, spit it out. Got all the same bits in your trousers like a normal lad.
Last I checked, everything was where it should be.
If I have one regret for 2015, it would probably be that I didn't play enough of The Witcher 3. To be honest, if I'd played 70 to 80 hours of most other games, I'd be questioning why I'd played it so long. But the 70 to 80 hours I spent in The Witcher have barely allowed me to even scratch the surface of this massive game. If anything, its position on the list is a testament to the quality of the hours I've already spent and how much I'm looking forward to the hours ahead. Simply put, The Witcher 3 is one of the best RPGs I've ever played, and I like to think I've played a decent amount of RPGs. With so many of these games these days, the story almost seems like an afterthought. That doesn't seem to be the case with The Witcher though, with a thoroughly engrossing story giving Geralt a sense of purpose in this world, unlike many other RPG leads who just tend to be along for the ride. In addition to the overarching story here, there are many individual and personal stories to be found in the game's side quests, which again are among the best I've ever seen in an RPG. So often we're expected to talk to this guy, then go here, collect this, bring it back, get paid. Well, The Witcher, however, does a really good job of delivering interesting side quests with realistic, personable characters with varied objectives and a means of achieving them. And as someone who usually spends most of his time in these games completing every side quest available to him, I certainly appreciate the enormous effort that must have gone into these. Needless to say, in order to complete such quests, you're going to need to slay a fair few monsters as well as the occasional pesky human foe. With the two swords in your back and the magic signs Geralt has at his disposal, The Witcher delivers a satisfying and regularly challenging and tactical combat system. Each combat scenario can present new challenges with varied enemies with different strengths and weaknesses. Well, sometimes patience is the key to a battle. Learning when to attack and when to fall back becomes very important against some more difficult enemies, but this strategy brings with it a great sense of accomplishment when you finally defeat a tricky enemy that you just don't get in games where you just charge in head first spamming the attack button. My experience with this wasn't the hardest difficulty though, so maybe keep that in mind. Can't really speak for the challenge on the lower difficulties. But you can easily get lost in the world of The Witcher for hours if you really felt like it. The game just looks so amazing that you could just trot around the world on horseback and let the day pass you by. The areas are varied from swamplands and rolling green hills to the cobbled streets of cities filled with market stalls and NPCs going about their days. Also, realistic beard growth. It's the future, I tell you. As a bit of a completionist, I can only imagine the amount of time it would take me to complete everything this game has to offer. However, I can say with some certainty that I would probably enjoy every minute of that time, and pretty much any other year, it would have been my game of the year.
It is now the year 2077. We stand on the brink of total war. And I am afraid. For myself. For my wife. For my infant son. Because if my time in the army taught me one thing, it's that war never changes.
So I'll be honest here. While I loved nearly every aspect of Fallout 4 as a game by itself, its position on this list is almost as much to do with the universe of Fallout as a whole. The Fallout universe is, by some distance, my absolute favourite across games, films, TV, books, and any other type of media you can think of. I've always been a sucker for alternative history, and the alternative history of Fallout and the dystopian future that it's led to is just so perfect in my eyes. I'll admit it, I'm absolutely a Fallout fanboy, and it would have taken a hell of a cock up by Bethesda to keep it off the top spot this year. Thankfully, they didn't cock up at all. While the game at its core isn't radically different from 3 or New Vegas, incidentally 2 of my favourite games of all time, it makes improvements where improvements were necessary, with the biggest improvement probably being the new shooting mechanics. While in 3 and New Vegas you would probably spend 90% of your time in VATS, as the shooting in those games didn't really allow for accurate marksmanship without the use of VATS. In 4, however, the shooting feels infinitely superior to its predecessors, and you could probably shoot the wings of a bloatfly at 20 paces if you felt the need to. But what would you shoot it with? I'm glad you asked. In the past with Fallout we've been limited to the pretty standard weapon set: laser rifles, plasma rifles, pistols, assault rifles, the Fat Man, and the occasional unique variant of each of these. Well, standards remain, what you can do with them is changed entirely. With the addition of mods to both weapons and armour, you can now craft your perfect weapon for taking on the wasteland, or mod your armour to let you carry more weight as you head out to scavenge the wasteland for junk. Speaking of which, junk is no longer, well, junk. Every item in the game can be broken down into the basic components they're made of, which can then be in turn used to create weapon and armour mods, or to help you build up your settlements in the game's new base building mechanics, which I love, by the way. There's something immensely satisfying about building up a town from the ruins of a post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland you once called home. And that's what these settlements have the potential to become, a home. In a series where you're regularly an outsider to the world, not really belonging anywhere, having a place to call home is a nice change of pace. I'm not sure why, but I always seem to head home to Sanctuary after finishing a quest. Dropping off junk, repairing my power armour, maybe sell some stuff to the town's traders and add some new furniture to my house. Whatever I end up doing, it's added an unexpected dynamic to the game that I'm not sure I could live without now, even if the actual building mechanic itself can be a bit, well, clunky. And how have I not talked about the actual world of Fallout 4 yet? From the moment I emerged from that vault, I was instantly sold on the new wasteland of the Commonwealth. As a non-American with little knowledge of Boston, I wasn't sure what I'd make of the Commonwealth. Then I remembered that while the decaying ruins of old pre-war landmarks add to the charm of the world of Fallout, so much more of that charm comes from the little details littered throughout the world. From running across a supermutant behemoth disguised as a plastic swan in a pond, to finding 2 pre-war skeletons 69ing. There's plenty of strange and wonderful things, big and small, to be found from simply wandering around this world for hours on end, which I have done. As I said at the beginning, Fallout 4's position on this list is as much about my love of the series and the universe it takes place in, as it is about the game itself. But to say that is also somewhat of a disservice to the game because, quite frankly, Bethesda have managed to put together not just my favourite game of this year, but one of my favourite games of all time. Now they just need to release a book on the definitive history of the Fallout universe and I will officially love them forever. I'm serious. Please release such a thing. You have no idea how much I want that. Anyway, with that, we end our journey through my 2015 gaming experience. Now for a few honourable mentions. Metal Gear Solid 5 is another game I wish I'd got to play more of this year, but unlike The Witcher, I don't think I played enough to form a full opinion on it. But that being said, I really enjoyed what I did play and look forward to getting back into it. Tales from the Borderlands was so close to making this list. It really was a last minute decision to leave it off, and it's probably to do with the Telltale formula for games which I've become a little bit weary of. But I can absolutely say that this was the best written game of 2015. As much as it pains me to say this, The Taken King did manage to drag me back into Destiny, and I'll admit, it was really fun while it lasted. But as with vanilla Destiny, it just eventually became a monotonous grind towards nothing. Which really is a shame. But you never know, maybe Destiny 2 will be a little less grindy. Not going to hold my breath or anything. But anyway, that about covers it. We're done and dusted with 2015 and can look forward to 2016, the year of peace and prosperity in gaming, where money is made, games are played, and everybody's happy. No, that's never going to happen, is it? We're such a miserable bunch. Well, if nothing else, I'll have stuff to mention at the start of next year's video. Assuming every game isn't delayed, I'll have games on the list as well. 2016 is not a total loss then, I guess. But no matter how the year turns out, hopefully I'll see you guys next year at some point for some video about some game. Until then, bye for now.